Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 10th Cloud Tooltime webinar. Joining us today, we have Yordan and Pavlov to discuss low-code development with Eclipse Dirigible. Yordan is a senior developer at SAP Labs Bulgaria, and he has over 7+ years of experience in the cloud computing technologies. Currently, he is focused on Kubernetes framework for building enterprise-grade cloud platform at SAP. He is also project lead and committer in the Eclipse Dirigible project since the project beginning. Lately, he is driving the adoption for Eclipse Dirigible in the community and is promoting the low-code and no-code development model. If you have any questions for Yordan as we move through today's presentation, feel free to ask in the chat or using the Ask a Question tab. And without any further delay, Yordan, it's over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. So actually, this is my second presentation at the Cloud Tooltime. And last time I showed you some introduction of Eclipse Dirigible, and there we focused more on how actually to develop applications by writing code by hand, and what kind of APIs, what kind of setups there we have, and so on. Now we are going to focus more on the second important part of Dirigible, and this is the low-code development and the rapid application development techniques that it provides. So let's start with some kind of overview what low-code development is at all. And as most of you maybe know, low-code development is actually a visual way to develop applications. It actually allows for not so techy guys to develop applications, for some kind of citizen developers to develop applications. So these are guys with business context, which knows how the applications should work, but don't know how actually to build it. And mostly this local development platforms actually came with some kind of visual editing, with some kind of drag and drop capabilities, and so on. So what are the lessons learned from the pandemics, or at least for the last 1.5 years? So many of the enterprises, so close to 60%, actually see an acceleration to the cloud, and that's exactly due to the COVID-19. So it was a booster for the adoption of the cloud and the new technologies. Actually, also we see some challenges, and these challenges are really great one, and they're actually related to the human factor, and that the company sees that there is a big tech talent gap. So actually, it's very hard to hire and maintain developers and to stay in the company and to be productive over the large period of years. So also we have this ever-growing and complex landscape of the enterprises. So by some estimations, most large enterprise companies have more than 130 applications, and all of them are big ones application, and they're growing year over year with close to 70% increase rate. So this is a huge burden for the company, for the talents that are working for such companies. So how actually local development techniques could help us and why they're so important? So basically, as I said in the beginning, they're mostly for citizen developers, and with that we actually scale out the potential employees that could build up applications. So it's not only for the IT department, actually the real business owner could go there and build a small application for exactly their needs without wasting time, without overthrowing the IT departments with many requirements and in general, it is a much faster and safer way to build applications. So by some estimations, it is expected to ease the application development time with up to 10 times. And this will end in the end to saving money. And in general, it will be a better way for application development. In general, this kind of low-code application platforms came as a software as a service, and they're usually bound to some cloud platform. Of course, there's exceptions, and there are some on-premise ways to use such platforms and to build applications, but in general, we can assume that most of the low-code application platforms are running and living in the cloud. So as we say low-code application development, what exactly does it mean? So actually there are more than 30 focus areas, as you can see here in the word cloud. So we can talk about here about modeling, about business processes, about drag and drop capabilities, about mobile applications, even about AI-assisted development, extensibility, API creation, all kinds of policy management, of course, one-click deployment, also on-premise deployments, marketplaces, and so on and so on. So there are really different areas, and there are really different ways how to solve the challenges of each of the areas. Of course, with that many focus areas, we have a variety of use cases. So one low-code application development tool maybe could solve the needs of one company, but that doesn't necessarily mean it could solve the needs of another company. So it's a really fragmented marketplace right now. Of course, there is the everlasting challenge of stickiness. So by selecting one such provider, this low-code capabilities, actually the company is bound to it. So there is no way, as for example, for a Java application, you can write it and deploy it on, for example, on GCP or on AWS or even on SAP. Of course, with small modifications, but for low-code application written and built and deployed on certain environments, certain platform, low-code application platform, it's not that easy, if not to say impossible, to migrate it to another one. So there is this kind of stickiness issue to that way of development. Of course, as of now, we have some established leaders like Salesforce, Microsoft, and OutSystems, and we have some challengers like ServiceNow, Oracle, and others. All of that are enterprise companies providing enterprise low-code application platforms, and basically you have to pay money to use that platforms. Of course, there are some free trials and so on, but in general, they're paid ones. Why here Eclipse Dirigible is important? Because we come open source. That of course means that we are free. You can deploy and use it whenever you want it. So it could be on any cloud or on-premise, or I don't know, maybe on Mars one day. And that is the big difference compared to the other solutions. So, or at least to my knowledge, we're the only one open source low-code application platform as of now. So here are some estimations by Gartner, and they claim that over the next 2 years, more than 50% of the medium and large enterprise companies will actually have at least adopted one low-code application platform. And this is by far huge adoption. And 3 years from now, they are expecting that the low-code application development model will take around and more than 65% of the total application development up to then. So it is expected to have huge impact in the industry and especially in the application development segment of it. So let's see some brief overview of Dirigible. So for those of you who haven't attended the last session where I had a brief overview about Dirigible, here I can go over it again. So basically, if you follow that timeline, it was incepted exactly 10 years ago, and it was internal solution inside SAP. Back then, we have selected JavaScript as a primary language for it. And we had this web ID, which was quite modern for that years. And we, from the beginning, we relied heavily on this rapid application development techniques, and of course, the system development model. In 2014, we went open source, and initially it was open source under the SAP GitHub organization. A few months afterwards, it was the dirigible.io site was officially launched, and you can still visit it today. And of course, we had many redesigns. That is normal. In 2015, we launched the Dirigible Labs GitHub organization. So it is a separate organization where we host all kinds of plugins, modules, samples, and projects related to Dirigible. It is still under the Eclipse Foundation, so it's how to say it? It is governed by the Eclipse rules. That was the right one. It was governed by it. So we can assume that the Dirigible Labs organization is part of the Eclipse Dirigible project itself. And there, as of now, we have more than 400 separate repositories. So again, in 2015, from the SAP GitHub organization, we went to the Eclipse Foundation. And a few months afterwards, we actually became one of the first and the founding member of the Eclipse Cloud Development Top Level project. And it was founded in 2015. So in more recent years, in actually last year in 2020, in SAP, in the SAP organization again, Access Key project was created. And this project is actually leveraging Eclipse Dirigible underneath to provide the necessary tooling for some kind of migration. And if you're interested in that migration of SAP applications, we can talk about in the end. And what we're expecting in the next year, actually, this is Eclipse Dirigible 6.0, and it will be a major refactoring of the current capabilities. We are planning to, to cut a lot of the unnecessary stuff and to really make Dirigible light, to make it able to run on a Spring Boot application and to be easily integratable in other third-party solutions. So as of now, this is our goal for that major refactoring. Of course, it will come also with newer features, improved APIs, and so on and so on. But it will be some kind of major refactoring. So what are the key features that actually Dirigible provides? It is this in-system development model. So basically you have your application code in Dirigible, you save it, and it runs at the moment. So without any restart or anything. And in the same time, you can imagine that Dirigible is deployed on any platform, and it is integrated in leveraging the services that are coming from underneath. For example, on SAP, you could use SAP HANA, or on AWS, you could integrate with Postgre and so on. And of course, other services like the mail service and so on and so on. But as we are talking for a local development right now, I won't bother you with all of that. Of course, the second major pillar is the local development tooling that Dirigible provides. Of course, the JavaScript APIs. So low-code development is not no-code development. So from time to time, you could write some scripts, or you can edit what was generated. Also, the in-system development brings this zero turnaround time, so it's really the fastest way to develop applications. So if you compare with Java or even with Node.js, you have some kind of build step and run step afterwards. So in Dirigible, this happens on the fly. Of course, it has an web ID and a runtime. It has some extensibility features, and last but not least, it is open source. So let's see what kind of low-code features Dirigible provides. We have actually three major pillars. The first one is the EDM, the Entity Domain Modeling. Basically, it is a visual way of modeling entities, having relations between them, and to go one step after what seems to be only a scheme model. We have this configuration on the UI properties. So for each and every property, you could say what kind of widget it is, and some other settings, whether it's writable, readable, and so on, whether it should be hidden, whether it should be calculated, what should be the expression. For example, you could also say that this is an email and it requires some kind of validation or some other kind of validations as well. The second major pillar is the BPM, and this is the business process modeling. And it seems for some of you very, very familiar. And actually, it is using underneath this activity, and now known as Flowable. So Flowable is a fork of activity, and we're using Flowable internally in Dirigible to be able to run and scale business processes. And actually, this editor that you can see here is coming also from Flowable. Of course, you can model tasks, you can have these gateways and so on. And the most interesting thing compared to, for example, the standard Java way of development is that you don't need to redeploy the application in order to update the process. You can update the task itself as it is the implementation of the task itself, as it is purely a JavaScript server-side code, and it could be touched on the fly, and that doesn't require redeployment or republish of the process. You could also actually edit the process steps, so add or remove some of the steps, and this also doesn't require restart of the application, so Dirigible will take care of that, and it will make the needed changes. It will first unpublish the flowable process and then publish the new one. So last but not least, maybe this is the most trivial one, it is the UI modeling. So there's a capability in Dirigible to actually drag and drop UI components and to create some kind of forms, which later could be integrated in your application. So in combination, these three pillars actually give the holistic picture of the low-code capabilities that Dirigible has. So it is modeling of entities, of processes, and of course of user interface. So let's get started. So if you want to give it a try to Dirigible, you could simply go to dirigible.io and you can click on the try it out button. So this will launch you to a trial instance, which is a shared one and which you can use. So it doesn't even require some kind of social logging or so. You could just type a nickname here to enter. We've done this to, of course, to be more easy for people to give it a try. Also, if you're interested in the project itself, you could visit the help portal, and also we have sample sections with a lot of samples. But let's switch to the maybe the most interesting part of that presentation, and this is the demo. And today we're going to see several demos. And the first one will be about entity domain modeling. So let's switch to my dirigible instance. So as you can see, it is running right now on a local host. It is running inside a Docker container right now. And what we're going to do is to create one new project. I'll name it University. And I'll create new entity data model. I'll name it, for example, model. And then you have this editor. So on the left-hand side, you have the entities that you can drag and drop. So the first one is the entity. And for example, this will be students. They will have ID. Of course, students have first name, last name, and let's say age. As you can see, all the properties right now are varchar with 20 symbols of length. This is the default one, but you could change it. So if you click on properties, you could go to data and change it to integer. Of course, it could be primary key, not unique, and so on, but right now we don't bother with that. We can switch to the next tab, which is the user interface. And here, instead of text box, it will be actually a number. Let me hide this a bit. And for the ID, it is system generated. I don't want to see it actually in the generated application, so I'm going to hide it. Okay, so right now we have one entity. Let's make them two. So the second one will be courses. They will also have an ID and a name. Again, I'm going to hide the ID. And in the end, I'll have this third entity, which will be student courses. And they will have a connection to the student entity and to the course entity. So this will be student and this will be course. So again, we can hide the ID. And if we go to the course, here a more interesting thing, we can actually select a widget type of dropdown. And for the dropdown key, it will be an ID. So this is the key of the entity. And the value, it will be taken from the name property. So here they are the ID and the name. For the student, it will be different kind of relation here. So actually, this entity will be part of master detail entities. So it is a dependent entity. The student's entity will be a primary one, and it will be the main entity here. The relation is of type of composition, I want many. And if I set everything right, then I can save it. This one I don't need it. And then this model.model file was generated for me. It is actually one huge JSON with all the settings that input to the entities and the relations. And what we can do with that model file, we can actually right click on it and click generate. And here from list of templates, we can select what kind of application we would want to generate. And in that case, I would want to generate a full stack application. And by the way, this is an extendable list of templates. So for example, if you take Dirigible and provide your own templates as an extension, they will be listed here. So this is actually our goal, to make it fully customizable, and that in the end will serve the needs of the customers. So here we have to provide some data. So the name of the extension will be university, and here the title will be the same, and the umbrella will be the same. You could also generate an all data artifact out of the definition, but right now I don't need it. Okay, so I'm going to click on the generate button, and as you can see, we have something generated, and I'll click on the publish first, and then I'll show you what we have here. So we have, for example, the students API. So this is how it looks like. It is actually a major difference from what other low-code tooling is providing, because in most cases the low-code tooling is providing some kind of closed behind the scene code, and it could not be touched. In the best case, some scripting could be provided, but that's all. Our approach here is different. We generate a whole application with all the needed artifacts, and if you want, and you could do it, you can actually change the generated code. It's not recommended, we will say, but if for some reasons that is needed, it can be done. Of course, the way to extend the REST services are through extension points, and this is what we want to emphasize here. So if this is published right now, oh, it's not published. Maybe I'll try to publish it again. Okay, let's see what we have here. In the index HTML, we have these two entities created, and for some reason, unfortunately, and this is really not that great, the entities were not created, the tables, for some reason. So let me give it a try one more time. Okay. Okay. So you can imagine that this was working, and right now the generated user interface is there, but for some reason, maybe as I put something wrong in the definition, right now I couldn't remember what it could be, but in the end, the generated application will look something like this, and you will be able, once the REST services are up and running, to input some data here. For example, Yordan, and here, as you can see, this is actually a number, and if you save it, right now it's not working, but it should appear here. So let's switch to my fallback, and this is actually accessible from here, and this link will be shared as well. So this one is a more complex application that I want to show you. It has many entities. Hopefully the definitions there are right. And what I can do, I can go to the Git perspective and clone it. It will take some seconds to do so. And as you can see, we have all of the projects cloned here. So in Dirigible, we have also these dependencies. So one project could have dependency to several Git repositories and so on. And I think they should be published by default, yes. So let's take a look at them. The important part is here in the bookshop/admin module project. And here you have this again this EDM definition. This one is a bigger one. You have several entities. You have books, stores, and so on. And they have these relations. So if I open the index HTML of the admin module, I should be able to see some data here. Yes, the data is coming from this bookshop data file, so data project. So here it contains some kind of CSVs with some default data. So if you're wondering from where this data is coming, and for example, we have some books here, we can edit them, we can choose a different category, and so on. Also, what we can do is so this generated user interface is more like admin UI, and it's the goal here is to really to easy the domain creation of the application, and afterwards we believe that professional developers should take care and really build, for example, the final look and feel. So for example, here we have this bookshop marketplace that we have. So as you can see, it's a totally custom thing. It could not be generated. You have this marketplace here. You have the books here in the action section category, and so on. So what is the next interesting thing is that you could actually provide an extension to the user interface, to the one that was generated. And if we switch back to the admin UI, what we can see is here that we have these stores, and again they have this master detail relation. But if I select the first store, I will see on the right hand side Google map with the exact location of the store. So this was done through this extension point in that project. So it is contributing a view to the Launchpad Bookshop Stores view, actually. And this view is freestyle HTML with whatever you want in there. In that case, it is a Google map integrated. So let's continue with the other flow of low-code development. And this is the business process modeling. So I'll try to create new project. It will be maybe university process. And in there, I'm going to create new business process model. Okay. So it actually has one task here. And of course, you can add more tasks, create gateways, even add user tasks and so on. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going just to edit this simple task to say hello world. And it actually has a handler, and the handler is a JavaScript task or service that is being executed. So I'm going to name it task.js. It is residing inside the project, or at least it is expecting to be there. So it is task.js. And here, if I type console.log hello world from task.js, it should be visible. The message should be visible in the console once I trigger the process. In order to do that, I'm going to need one trigger.js, and I'll cheat a bit. I'll go to the help portal, and then to the sample section and search for BPM process. And here I can see how actually a BPM process could be started. It's really 2 lines of code, but I wanted to show you how to go to the samples page and how to find for samples. There are a lot more samples here that you can play around later. So if I go to the trigger.js, paste the sample code and clear the console log, maybe I'll move it here for you just to see better. And I'm going to clear it again and save it. And maybe I first had to publish. So today is not my lucky day, but let's see. As you can see, no available process definitions as of now. Let's see whether it was published. No. Maybe I have really bad luck today. Okay, so let's try again the fallback option here and to see whether the BPM demo is working. It is actually integrated with the other sample of the bookshop. And if I go here, clone the project, it will take some seconds to do that. Okay, we are ready. So let's switch back to the workspace. And here is my project. It is this print on demand. It has several steps. Can minimize it. Yes. Okay. So you have this create quest. So the scenario here is that you have a bookshop, but you don't actually have the books, and you have this website from where the client could request the book to be printed, and this actually triggers this process. So it gets the correct on-demand request. It checks the delivery address. Right now it's a dummy one. Then it's try to get the title, whether it's available in stock right now. And if not, then print it or cancel print, and the process finishes. So let's see if I switch back to the bookshop. Now you can see that we have this new section here, services, which was not there before publishing the print on demand process. If we go to the bookshop admin, right here you can see that we have 4 icons, but if we go to the home right now, there are 5 right now, and we have this print on demand section. So let's switch to there. And from the application, let's go to the services and then select one of the books. And I'll provide some address like Sofia, Bulgaria. And hopefully, if everything is all right. Okay, here are some exceptions going on, but if I refresh here, I can see that the printing request was created and it was completed. So if I try to print another book without providing a delivery address, of course it's a dummy check. Here we should have another record, which is invalid delivery address, as you can see. So the process was triggered, and we saw the 2 flows: the successful one and the errorless one. And if we, for example, select I don't know which one, but get delivery address, this task, and maybe I have to open it again. Okay, and see what is the handler behind it. We can see that it's located in the processes folder, the task, and it is get delivery address. Let's see what it's doing actually. So it is reusing this print request data access object. It is getting the ID of the process that is being executed, and it tries to check whether the print request, the current print request, has an address or not. So it, as I said, it's a dummy check. And in the gateway, we have this expression. So if the flow condition doesn't have a delivery address, then the printing request is being cancelled. So basically, that's from my side, and that are the demos that I wanted to show you. Unfortunately, I really had a bad luck today. I was not able to do the demos by hand, but hopefully the backup option with the bookshop and the bookshop process was there for me to save it. And that's it from my side. So it's up to you right now. Do you have any questions to me? Which diagram editor I will rely on? Okay, so if I remember correctly, I don't know whether Nedelcho is in the chat also to answer it, but it was the Oryx editor that we are using for the diagrams. What are the most common Eclipse Dirigible use cases? So the most common use cases that we saw Dirigible in action is actually for small business applications. So we have some customers that have built really for specific use cases this tailored business applications that they have. And the last question as of now is whether you can deploy Dirigible on any cloud platform. Yes, you can. So if you go to the Dirigible website, and then to the documentation, to the help, and finally to the setup, you will be able to see that we have a Docker deployment, a Kubernetes deployment, even Kima deployment, which is some kind of Kubernetes one. It can be deployed with Helm. It could be deployed even on Cloud Foundry. And basically that answers the question. So yes, Dirigible could be deployed anywhere. We have tried so far on AWS, on the ACP business technology platform, and on OpenShift. All right.
Great, thank you, Yordan. One other question that came in is, what's the current adoption level of
thank you.
Eclipse Dirigible?
Thank you, Club. So the current adoption level is, as you saw in the beginning, it's like 10 years old project, and we so far we haven't seen that many in big adoption numbers, but thankfully to this ACP XSK project, which is supposed to use Dirigible underneath, we're going in the next 1 or 2 years, we're expecting a lot of adoption, mainly from SAP customers as of now. Besides that, we have a few SAP partners that had used Dirigible in productive use cases. And these are the small and tailored business applications that I was talking in the beginning. Also, we have some internal SAP adoption, for small business purposes. And as of now, that's it. We're trying to grow the community as well in parallel, and we're welcoming anyone who would want to contribute either with code or with ideas or with feedback to do that. We're on github.com eclipse/dirigible.
Great. Thank you for that excellent presentation today, Yordan. Just a few housekeeping items. The next Cloud Tool Time happens September 7th. Thomas Haber will join us to present Integrating the Theia Waveform and Event Viewer. You can register that for that session in the link that was just posted. We are also looking to book more Cloud Tool Time webinars. So if you've got an idea, if you've got something you'd like to present, please click that link that was just posted and feel free to fill out the form. And finally, if you have any feedback on the Cloud Tool Time program, we would love to hear that. Click on the green button that will appear at the bottom that will tell you how to provide that feedback. And if we have no other questions, thank you all for attending today's Cloud Tool Time, and see you next time.